Hello, my name is Daniel Lucy. I'm an infectious disease and public health physician here at the Geisel School of Medicine at Dartmouth, where I teach public health and medical students as a clinical professor of medicine, health policy, and clinical practice. What I'd like to talk about today, very briefly, is that if smallpox, the disease caused by the variola virus, returns to the world after its eradication 45 years ago in 1980, then the return of smallpox will be laboratory-linked. For at least 3,000 years in human populations, smallpox caused widespread death and disfigurement, as well as blindness and other terrible sequelae in people who survived smallpox. Since the global eradication of smallpox was declared in 1980 at the World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland, there have been no persons, no cases of smallpox anywhere in the world. It's the only human infectious disease that has been eradicated from the world. Importantly, there is no animal reservoir of the variola virus that causes smallpox, the disease. Thus, if smallpox were to return to the world, it would be laboratory-linked. By laboratory-linked, I mean the following. Smallpox virus storage and experiments are authorized by the World Health Organization, WHO, only in two laboratories in the world. One is in the United States and the other is in Russia. The World Health Organization, WHO, authorizes only these two labs to store the virus and perform experiments, but only those experiments that are pre-approved by a World Health Organization Advisory Committee on Variola Virus Research, abbreviated ACVVR. One of these two laboratories is at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, and the other is at a similar laboratory in Koltsovo, Novosibirsk Oblast in Russia. The next two slides I'd like to describe some, not necessarily all, but some of the potential laboratory-linked scenarios whereby the variola virus that causes smallpox could return to the world and to human populations. First of all, there are events that are related to one of the two World Health Organization authorized laboratories, again, one in the United States and one in Russia. For example, if there was an accidental infection of a laboratory worker with the variola virus, or on a larger scale, if there was a laboratory biosafety failure itself, a structural failure, so involving more than just one laboratory worker. A third scenario would be the theft of the variola virus from one of these laboratories, an event that, to my knowledge, has never occurred. And fourth, an unauthorized transfer of the virus from one of these laboratories to another laboratory, whether inside the United States or Russia, or to another country, whether to a civilian laboratory or to a military laboratory or some other type of laboratory. Again, to my knowledge, no such unauthorized transfer has ever occurred. In addition, there's a potential return of smallpox disease and the variola virus linked to a laboratory that is not authorized by the World Health Organization. I would like to emphasize that, to my knowledge, there is no such laboratory anywhere in the world at this time. However, I would like to emphasize that about 11 years ago, in July of 2014, there was an unrecognized laboratory storage of the variola virus, both variola major and variola minor, both of which can cause smallpox, having been stored in a freezer for apparently many decades. The freezer was in a laboratory in Bethesda, Maryland, on what is now the campus of the National Institutes of Health, and had subsequently been part of later laboratories of the Food and Drug Administration, of the FDA. Several vials, my recollection is that it was less than 10, perhaps 6, in this freezer were found to have replication competent, potentially infectious variola virus in July of 2014. The small number of vials was part of a much larger number of several hundred vials of various infectious disease pathogens, but the remainder were not variola virus. And the Centers for Disease Control from Atlanta were involved and came up to Bethesda and oversaw, along with oversight from the World Health Organization here in the United States, the destruction of all of these vials containing variola virus. In addition, another potential scenario is the accidental release from a hypothetical unauthorized laboratory anywhere in the world. Or another scenario is the intentional laboratory synthesis of variola virus. Now, this is a topic that's been discussed quite a bit, including a decade ago in an official report, the 29th and 30th of June of 2015, made to the World Health Organization Director General. The title of that report was the Independent Advisory Group on Public Health Implications of Synthetic Biology Technology Related to Smallpox. To my knowledge, no such synthesis in a laboratory of the actual smallpox virus, variola major or variola minor, has ever occurred. But the synthesis of a smaller virus called horsepox was reported from a laboratory in Canada approximately 7 or 8 years ago. In closing, I would just like to raise the concern presented in the initial video on this YouTube channel back on February 24th that I recorded about a hypothetical new smallpox biosafety risk as of early this year, 2025, which is due to the USA withdrawing from the World Health Organization. President Trump signed an executive order January 20th of 2025 this year, quote, withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization, end quote. In this order, it was stated, quote, that the U.S. Secretary of State shall immediately inform the Secretary General of the United Nations and the leadership of the World Health Organization, WHO, of the withdrawal.